Check the mic and make sure it's
So welcome everyone to the group chat brought to you by Overma. I'm Daryl and I'm here with our co-host Xingwei today. Xingwei, how are you feeling?
Hello, I'm feeling good.
Are you sure? We're both saying how tired we were, but okay, man. We're here to bring you a good episode. Today's topic is dealing with FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm sure all of us has been in a situation before where we we don't want to miss out, but then we're like, should I go? Should I not go? Hopefully today, by discussing this topic, you have a clearer way of looking at things and better decision making. Now, so anyway, maybe we can start by saying, why do you think, we feel FOMO? Like what is the underlying reason for that?
I think it's a biological instinct of human to have a social group. I think it's definitely that. There's nothing else. I think especially at certain age, certain period, you will feel even strongly of this kind of fear of missing out, especially when you want to fit into a group. Like you want to be part of a group, then you will feel this. Like you are very scared. Like literally you are fear that you are missing out certain juicy stuff. Because of this, you don't fit in as much. You don't you are not as friend as like other people are. Yeah.
I think it's definitely true. I guess the team with like cliques and friends, right, is a lot of it is predicated on common experiences. Like we've done this together, we've been through this together, we go this place together, we attended this event together. So I think a lot of it surrounds the whole idea of shared experiences. And if you're not part of the experience, suddenly you lost a sense of connection, right? A sense of belonging. And I think it's not just in your teenage years. I think in general, even like right now, if my friends they meet up and then I couldn't go, I also feel FOMO. I think that's just natural. It's just human instinct, like Xingwei said. Because if you go back to the more nomadic days, like maybe hundreds, thousands of years ago, when human was evolving, right? If you shrink from your tribe, right, your pack, you're more likely to die, right? Because you have less resources, people to protect you, and like all sorts of whatever nonsense. But I think it's just a natural process of humans having this innate need to feel part of a group, to feel this sense of belonging. So if you feel FOMO, please don't blame yourself. It is normal. But I think what we want to discuss today is more than just dealing with FOMO, but it's more of taking a deeper look inside and deciding for ourselves whether the FOMO thing is something that we ought to be worried about. And I think we have a certain direction we want to talk about. We haven't planned it fully, but maybe I'll first start with Xingwei. Xingwei, I think before the podcast, you shared something about being alone doesn't mean lonely. Can you elaborate further on that?
I think I agree with Daryl. Until now, at this point, like supposedly we are more mature, I still have that feeling of FOMO. But I think it's about how we deal with FOMO that has evolved along with age. So this is like a very personal experience. I stayed in college, in uni, and I was also quite an extrovert when I was in school. So I always hang out with my friends, and then being in college, right? I also always have a lot of friends because you stay in literally the same building. You are never like short of friends. So because of that, I'm always with people, and I enjoy that because I'm an extrovert. I love hanging out with people. I get energy from people. Then, so I thought that I didn't ever need to be alone because I'm always with people, right? But I realized that after I went for exchange, I realized that being alone is actually an amazing feeling. And people will think that, alone. So when I was in college, there are a lot of people who cannot eat themselves. Like they can't eat in the dining hall themselves because it's very weird. Everyone is in groups and they are alone. I can understand where this fear comes from because people will think that, wow, this person damn loser, no friend. But honestly, now I'm like totally over that stage. I feel like I love being alone, and I don't think that it's lonely. You can be lonely even in a group of people. If this group of people are talking about things that don't concern you or you don't care about, right? But it does not mean that you're lonely when you're alone. You can find a lot of peace, a lot of happiness in yourself. I think that is the perspective that maybe a lot of people are missing out. So right now, I think I think it's about being comfortable with yourself. I think if you're not comfortable with yourself, people can tell. I feel like people, you would need friends because you need them. It's not because like you really truly enjoy their company, like you just need their company. I think there's a distinction in there. So maybe that is not directly related to FOMO, but I think the idea is that even if you're not in a group, I think you have to make yourself a good company so that you can get along with yourself. Then you will be happy being yourself. Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting here because Xingwei identifies herself as an extrovert. I definitely identify myself as an introvert. So my POV on this is very, very different. So as an introvert, right, it's not like I don't have the ability to like rah-rah the crowd or make people around me feel like the group setting and stuff. So for me, being included is an important feeling because like I can only like more or less join a group. I can't be like the leader of the group sort of in a social setting. So since don't know when, I always felt obliged to be FOMO lah, because I don't want to miss out and like, I can't really get things started on my own. So I just become a follower. And a lot of times I realized that I was in situations where I wasn't that comfortable. Like it's very specific settings, like maybe certain group of people that I don't feel as comfortable with, but I still try my best to fit in and stuff. But it was until a certain point, I think, almost similar to Xingwei when I went on exchange. So for those of you who don't know what exchange is, it's basically in university, you go overseas for like a semester or two and you study overseas. So clearly when you study overseas, all your local friends are gone. You are in a very foreign environment, staying by yourself without your family and stuff. You are almost like forced to be alone. And it was also more or less during that time where I found that I actually really enjoyed my time alone. And when I feel more comfortable in my own skin, I actually feel less worried about how I portray myself in a social setting, because I know that, this is who I am. I'm going to embrace who I am. And then eventually you realize that it actually attracts people more. Like people will come to you a bit more because you're no longer like the one that's like very jittery, like you try to fit in, but then you don't really fit in. But more or less, right, after a while, I just realize that, hey, this is who I am. Why am I trying to pretend to be an extrovert when I'm not? And then when I just be myself, I realized that it's so much easier. Like people naturally would just like feel more inclined to interact with you and stuff, because it's very obvious when somebody is trying to be somebody they are not, right? It's very obvious. Then you just feel like, what is this person doing, right? So I think rather than fitting in, I think it's more of like just being yourself and not feeling a need to fit in. I don't know what you call it, fit out. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, but it's more like, I think looking inwards is more important. So rather than thinking that when you go out in a group setting, if you're not there, you feel left out, and they might like not like you feel the whole FOMO situation. I think rather you look inwards and ask yourself that whether you want to be there in the first place, right? If you feel like you want to be there, sure, go ahead, then you say yes. But if you feel like you don't want to be there, there's no need to force yourself to. I think that's what we're trying to say. Because more often than not, those situations, you don't feel comfortable. And eventually it doesn't really matter. Like those common experiences don't mean much. I give you all some real life examples for myself. So I went to uni, my university course. The people there are generally very extroverted, very rah-rah, very loud. Those kind that literally they can like start singing, and like I'm like, whoa, this is completely not me. So what I did was that I didn't try deliberately to fit in, but I just be myself. If I'm the quiet one at the back of the lecture hall, so be it. But I realized because I was being myself, I was very genuine. I didn't try to pretend to be somebody I'm not. Eventually, when I start conversations and slowly build friendships and stuff, I didn't really know a lot of people, but I know a few people that I could really talk to. And till this day, I'm still talking to. For me as an introvert, it matters more to me that I have a few close friends rather than having a large group of friends. So that was one of the ways I deal with FOMO, that it's really not about like those hi-bye, acquaintances, like, yo, like I'm so popular, like screw that. I want a friend that I can still talk to 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and I know that they'll still be part of my life. So that is one way I deal with FOMO, understanding that the depth of the relationship matters a lot more than the scale, like how many friends you have. So I think maybe back to Sing Wei, like just now you mentioned like being alone and like feeling comfortable in your own skin. Is there this like aspect of like self-fulfillment that you're mentioning? Like, how do you feel fulfilled by yourself? What are some tips or like, some stories you can share? How do you feel happy by yourself?
That's a very good question. I feel like everyone has very different standard. So I can't really speak for everyone. But when I am alone, I can do things that I truly enjoy. There is always the element of like when you are with groups, right? Everyone has to kind of accommodate each other, which is totally fair, right? Which is right. Like you should accommodate to your friends and you should like compromise, understand each other and everything. But isn't there like a super like nice feeling freedom when you're alone? Because you can choose anything that you want to do. You don't have to care about any like expectation, any kind of like obligation, like when you're with your friends, and just do something that make you happy. It can be like reading a book, it can be just sitting there cooking a meal for myself, or just go for a walk. And I don't even need to have an aim because I don't even need to have a destination, because I'm not accounting to anyone. I don't have to tell this person that, oh, okay, we are now walking to MacRitchie. I can just walk without even thinking. If I want to turn right, I turn right. If I want to turn left, I turn left. I think that kind of freedom is something that you really cannot get when you are with people. And self-fulfillment. I think self-fulfillment is at a very high level. But in general, I think doing things that you like, doing things that you can do when you're alone, that makes me feel quite fulfilled.
I want to bring up this point. I think it's very interesting. I think Singwei might want to discuss more on it. I think social media. I think social media creates a very unhealthy picture of FOMO and group setting. Because on social media, all you see is the highlights of other people's life. Like I'm with my friends, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like my life is awesome, it's so fun. But you need to realize that social media is just like a highlight reel, right? It's literally highlight, like Insta stories of like, or like TikToks of like the fun stuff, right? You don't film like yourself doing the boring stuff. You don't film yourself, not having fun. So I think it creates this very unhealthy expectations that you have to be constantly on the go, like doing things, like you need to be in it. You're like the most hit person ever. But I think that is like very unrealistic. And at the end of the day, if you keep feeling that way, eventually you will just like burn out from all of those expectations, because it's just not realistic to feel that the whole time you can be in the peak of your life. I think even for like the most successful people around you, you look at them, they will have periods of ups and downs. It's not like their whole day is a highlight, it's impossible. And I think it's creating that perspective that, oh, everybody is having fun. I need to have fun too. And I think that's where the FOMO builds more and more. But I think once you realize that that is actually a very unhealthy and unrealistic expectation and perspective that you can have, you realize that actually FOMO is really not that difficult to deal with. But more importantly, is just that you need to look at it objectively. Do you really want to go? If you really want to go, go ahead, right? But if you don't really feel like going, it's completely okay to say no. Personal experience, when I was in exchange, there were a couple of my friends too, like we went together. So they are a bit more extroverted. They wanted to go clubbing, right? So they wanted to go to the Swedish club because like, oh man, Swedish clubs are lit, bro. Yeah. But then for me, right, when they asked me, I thought really hard about it. I was really damn FOMO because like, oh shit, it's gonna be fun, right? But then I kind of want to go, but I don't really feel that comfortable. In the end, I decided not to go. I spent the night alone. I cooked dinner by myself. I watched my own shows. I felt so happy. I felt so contented. It's a feeling that I can't describe. But it's like at the end of the day, when they post their videos and stuff, it's like, well, I'm sure I went. But then I realized that, hey, this sense of self-fulfillment, right? I can't describe it, but it's like I'm happy, right? I'm happy with what I've done and I don't have to fit in. Yeah, I don't need to try and fit in. I just do whatever I want to do. It's the same as like when I was in secondary school, there was this teammate of mine. Until now today, right, we are still super tight. We are like best bros ever. But during secondary school, right, he never ever went for like dinner after school. Like after trainings, he'll go home straight away. When we go to LAN shops to play games and stuff, he never joined us because to him, his family was important. So he will always go home to have dinner with his family and stuff. And we respected that because we understood that that's what's important to him. But at this point in time, it never really affected how we felt about him. And the fact that he didn't feel FOMO makes us even more longing to want to drag him to our next outing, you know? Like he don't feel FOMO at all. Like, what the hell, man? We had so much fun. Then it's like all the more it was like, hey bro, dinner. Then he eventually once or twice he had to cave into peer pressure eventually. I think that made it a lot more like meaningful of sorts. I don't think we have a goal for today's podcast. It's not like we're teaching you how to deal with FOMO, like so that you won't feel FOMO again. No, we at the start we already established you will feel FOMO.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
how
more
you
about,
deal with FOMO.
yeah, it's about looking inwards and how you think about the whole FOMO situation. And if you have a bit more clearer perspective on it, then like, okay, now I know why I'm feeling FOMO and how do I deal with it. I think that is more or less what we are hoping to discuss today. Now, so we're down to the very last point, right? We wanted to talk about this, learning to say no. Do you think there's an art to this or like there's a psychological thing to this?
I think it's about like having your own baseline, like having your own like for example your friend. I heard this story before and I really respect him. Like his principle is his family. Like if anything that will like affect the time with his family, he say no. So he has his own baseline. But if it is before training, it doesn't really affect his time with his family, he will say no. He will say yes. Something like that, right? You have your own principle. And I think people with principle are respectable, right? You need to have okay, not need, but if you have your principle, you should uphold it. Yeah, and I think people who uphold their principle are respectable. And I will not fault anyone. Like we change the position. Now I'm not the one who is feeling FOMO. I'm the one who making people FOMO. So I'm the friends that are going out and some friends rejected me. But if they are upholding their principle, I totally wouldn't fault them. I will not, at least for me, I can't speak for other people. I will not because of this and feel like, wow, this person don't value our friendship, don't want to go out with me. I feel like a mature person wouldn't really think like that. And I think the art of learning to say no is you have to say yes at some point.
I mean, there's two sides to the coin. I realize that sometimes saying yes is also cool because you expose yourself to new experiences and things otherwise you might not have tried, like being out of your comfort zone. I think saying yes is great. But sometimes you also know when you're supposed to say no, but you just can't do it. I think that's those situations that we're trying to say that, sticking with your guns, sticking with your principle, that is the right way forward. You don't have to feel like, being peer pressured into something that you don't want to do. I think that's the state that is the worst outcome that we hope that you can avoid. Now, I think on to the whole idea about FOMO, I think it really boils down on you think like certain things are cool, right? Like you feel like, wow, this person damn cool. Like I need to go and join this because it's cool. At the end of the day, that is true to a large extent. You mainly FOMO because you feel like you missed out something that's cool. Then I think it boils back to the question, why do you think it's cool, right? Like, is it cool just because you like, I don't know, you think it's cool or like whatever? But what I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, you need to make decisions for yourself. If you think that something is not for you, it is uncomfortable for you, then say no, it's perfectly fine. Or maybe linking back to one of the podcasts we did earlier about feeling burnt out, right? If you feel very burnt out already and people are still demanding more of you, like go out, go for this, stuff like that, learning to say no is great, all right? And in those situations, you shouldn't even feel FOMO because instead of making time for social stuff, you're making time for yourself. I think learning to take care of yourself is so important. And I think sometimes prioritizing yourself rather than your friends' needs is so underrated. So that's where the learning to say no part comes in. But I hope with our sharing today, not saying that now you can deal with FOMO better, but hopefully we shared a little different perspective on why you feel FOMO and in terms of how you should look at it in a more healthy sense. I think at the end of the day, feeling FOMO is normal. And I low-key feel that there are some experiences in my life that I wouldn't have otherwise felt if I didn't FOMO and just join, right? Certain things that I don't feel very comfortable, then I just YOLO, then I just join because my friend peer pressured me into it. And I turned out that I enjoyed it. But there are certain situations that I knew I would be highly uncomfortable, but I stuck to my principles and I said no. And then, it came out that that was like sort of like the right decision. But I still feel FOMO in the end. So human nature, you can't fight it.
So I think ultimately it's about like you make your own decisions because every situations are different. But you need to know like what is right, what is wrong, what is needed to be prioritized. Yeah.
And with that, we come to the end of today's podcast. If you're feeling FOMO, please leave us a like. Okay, and subscribe to our channel for more videos in the future. We'll see you in the next podcast, everyone. Bye bye.
It sound right, boy.